Okay, I've started a new one this morning. I hope you are, I don't know what happened then. It totally froze and everything locked up. So I'm just going to... Okay, gremlins, full moon, equinox, whatever planet's in retrograde. I'm back again. I am back again. Everything just shut down, locked down, and I couldn't get back in again. So, where do we go from here? You see, we're talking about pivoting. You just got to keep on going with it. You just got to say, well, this isn't working. We're going to try something else. So I hope this is... Thank you, Pam. Here we go. I'm not sure what happened. It just totally froze, and I've never had that happen before. Right, let's get back to it, shall we? Trailblazer. No, we'll just find a different way. I won't keep working on that. All right, as you're hot bacon again, we're talking about how are we going to pivot? I'm just giggling to myself because do you know, I'm an achiever type personality, right? So perfectionism is something, thanks Cecily, perfectionism is something that that I have to let go of big time, and I'm learning. And you know, this has been what this has been, all this, you know, the last 3 months of all this has been about being ready to pivot, let go of the way you want it, and just go with the flow. I'm going with the flow. Thank God for tapping. Rightio, let's talk about what can we create. That's where we're changing the narrative. Instead of asking, what do I want? Instead, ask the question, what can I create? Because there is no certainty. There's no such a thing as certainty any longer. And if we get hung up on that certainty, that's where you stop the intuitive flow of being in the moment. And I think that's what's so critical right now, the ability to live in the moment. Just let me know if you can still hear me, if you're back on with me. All sorts of technical issues this morning. Let me just say, we are time for new computers and a few other things at the moment. So we are going, morning Linda, yay. Somebody's on. Cecily, morning Pauline. Everybody's coming back on. That's so lovely. All right, let's see. What can I create? So tell me, when you ask yourself that question, I want you just for a moment think, if I ask myself this question, what can I create? Rather than what do I want, just measure the difference in your body, how that feels. Is the stress less? Does it make a difference to you? And part of it is putting yourself back in the driver's seat. You know, that you're not dictated to by others. And I think if there's anything that's come out of this, it's that. It's that we have to just learn to go with the flow. Now, how this works for you, especially when it comes to beliefs, is that, you know, I mentioned before, we have about 30 to 60,000 thoughts per day. And of that 30,000 thoughts, about 95% of those are the same thoughts you had yesterday. And of those, about 80% of those 95% are negative. So if you're kind of walking around thinking, oh, you know, nothing's working properly, I have all these plans and I've got to change, and you have that negative emotion going on for you, then that's the message that your subconscious is sending. Nothing goes right for me, nothing ever works for me, nothing I plan comes to fruition. When you change that narrative to what can I create, that 5% of those negative thoughts or those same thoughts you have every day has to work to create a change for you. Because when you go, what can I create, and kind of let it go, you're not under that stress of feeling no matter what I create or no matter what I want to do, nothing works out for me. And part of this is this change that's happening, because the change is requiring you to trust your intuition, to listen to your heart. That's what this change is asking you to do, is to step out of the fear, the unknown, and embrace that aspect of you that knows what to do. Do you know, I was sharing a story with a client this week about how the word that you use every year, you know, we create a word every year. That word that we create every year is so empowering. And I was telling her about the year that I used the word solutions. And that was the year that my son was diagnosed with autism, and I created this word for the year, which is I need to create solutions. And I remember a time that I was asked to come and do a presentation at a school on autism. And I got a call from this woman to say they had to cancel it. They had lost their funding or something, and I was really disappointed. And I remember thinking to myself, standing, you know, back in the day when the phone was on the wall, and you actually, you know, the phone was on the wall, and I'm standing next to the wall, and she was saying to me, "I'm sorry, we can't have you come. We haven't got any money, we haven't got any funding, and blah 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 blah. Things have changed." And I remember thinking, I need to create a solution to this. What's the solution I can create from this? And right at the end of the conversation, this lady said to me, "By the way, have you ever reached out to an organisation called Gold Coast Rec and Sport? I hadn't heard of them before." And she said, "Well, why don't you reach out to them and see if they have something, you know, maybe you can come and work with their staff. They maybe have some more funding than we did." Now, at the same time, we were also looking for a social skills program for my son. And I, you know, reached out to different people, couldn't find one. Anyway, so I ended up phoning the lady from Gold Coast Rec and Sport, talking to her about me coming in and doing some presentation to staff. She thought it was a great idea. And then she said, out of the blue, "By the way, we're running a pilot social skills program. And do you think that would be something your son would be interested in?" I said, "Yes, you wouldn't believe it. I've been looking for a social skills program for my son." Amazingly, that social skills program we enrolled him on was actually the best thing that ever happened to him. He ended up staying on that social skills program for about 7 or 8 years. The boys from that social skills program ended up becoming his best friends. So the ability to be able to, and I guess the moral of that story is, if you get hung up on what you can't have, instead of constantly thinking what I can create, the outcome is often far greater than you think possible. By the way, I did go on and do some work with their staff later on, but what I really wanted at that time was a solution for my son, for a social skills program. And I believe that's what's happening now. If we get so hung up on setting our goals and making that work, and then we have to pivot, we lose the ability to create different solutions. So the whole idea about this process, I believe this new change we are going through, is the fact that we are in this change. And we're in this change where we create the change. You see, I have this great belief. Change happens through us, not to us. That we're here right now in this period of time to help manifest change in the world. And that's going to come through us. And our role in all of this is to embrace the changes that we're feeling, to be able to create and pivot as we move forward. So, rather than asking, what do I want? Begin to start asking yourself, what can I create? Have a vision, like Joe Dispenza talks about, making a decision and then creating a vision. And by the way, we do have a free guide for you today, and that 10-step guide to making your creations work. If you type in the word guide into the comments, and I'm hoping this works, you should receive the 10-step process to making your intentions a reality. I'm a bit all over the place today. I'm sort of a bit frazzled at the moment. I need to just calm down. Guide. The guide is there. So if you would like the guide, the 10-step guide to how to create, manifest your intentions, just type in the word guide into the questions here and you should receive it. If not, I'll send it to you later. All right. So, who are you? Where are you heading from here on in? If you let go of that vision you had of yourself, that one you set in 2020, if you let that go now, who do you become? What will make it work for you? Work, okay. Oh, that's wonderful. And that's very thanks to my wonderful friend Pam, who's watching me and helping me out today. Thank you, Pam. It's working. That's fantastic. All right. What I want to talk about is, okay, so you're in this, we're creating this. Okay, what can I create? Brilliant, Linda. What can I create? Thank you for letting me know. Now, who do I become? Who do I become now in this change? Not only who do I become, but how do I make this work? Okay, how do I hold this space? Because here's what happens. Thank you. Here's what happens. If you are feeling this change, but you may come up against people who don't want you to change. They like you just the way you are. Because if you change, that requires them to change too. And this especially happens around when you want to change careers, or you want to embrace intuitive eating and release that weight that no longer serves you. When you're stepping out into creating that change, it can feel really uncomfortable. And anchoring in that level of feeling comfortable can really be challenging. Now, that guide that I've just given to you, that 10-step process, will give you the framework to go through this. But I want to talk quickly about the process of change and what you actually go through. And I've narrowed it down to 5 steps. So you've come out of this feeling different. Please just let me know, click a like or a heart, or just let me know, do you feel kind of different after all of this? Or are you wanting something different after all of this? Just let me know. So that process is now you've got to move through a series of steps to anchor it in, those habits, okay, that define this new change in you. Now, it starts off hard. Like you've decided that you want to change, you can feel a change. Nothing feels like it's working the way it used to. And that's hard. It feels hard. And as you start to move through this, you're starting to get that call, that intuitive feeling about, I don't want to go back. I can sense this. I can sense that I'm changing. You go kind of through what I call a bumpy part or a messy part. It just doesn't kind of feel right. And it feels almost like, first of all, it feels kind of like you're on a bumpy road, right? You kind of, okay, I've got this, and then, oh, I can't change. It's like, I feel this change. Oh, hang on, no, I can't. I want to speak my truth. Oh, no, hold on, maybe I'll get hurt. I want to make this change to my diet. Oh, wait a minute. How do I make that change? Does that mean I'm going without? It's like, it feels so bumpy. Then the next stage you move through is what we call messy. This is where nothing seems to work any longer, because the old you starts to break down. The old you has no draw to it anymore, but the new you isn't actually anchored in. Now, this is where people give up. Most people, I worked in the fitness industry for many years, and this is where people would give up their fitness program. They would stop coming to the gym. It's where most people give up diets. It's where, you'll set an intention and then it's just all too hard and you'll give up. It's this messy part because the habit hasn't yet formed, and the brain doesn't like change. So if you're not anchored into a new habit, you have to work hard to make it happen. You know, first 66 days of sheer willpower to make a change. Then what happens is that as you move through that messy part, and that just takes sheer willpower, lots of tapping, lots of meditation, lots of intention setting. As you move through that, you come to a place that I call airy. And that airy feeling, it's like you know you've changed, but you can't quite get a handle on it. It doesn't feel locked in or anchored. And that's the part where your inner work is so incredibly important. Then you move to what I call lighter, where you let go of all that old stuff, and you just feel this lighter space of being. It particularly happens when I'm working with people and we're working through the intuitive eating process. It can take anyone from 4 to 5 months to actually really sense this, I get it, and it becomes your new narrative and your new normal. So while you're going through that 10-step process that I've just sent you, just understand that these processes of change are going to be it's going to be uncomfortable. And that's what you can see people right now around the world, this uncomfortable part of this change. People trying to go back to a new normal. You know, there was another major crash on the stock market yesterday because people had gone back in from the crash we had a couple of weeks ago thinking it was all going to be back to normal. It's not going to be. We've got a different normal now. And we are the ones, the change that happens through us, are the ones who are going to hold that space. Do you know, I set a task in the Living Lighter Facebook group called the June Jumpstart, and I'm getting people to just set us one small intention that they wanted to stick to for 30 days. One small intention. Now for me it was drinking 6 bottles of water a day. And can I tell you, for the first 2 weeks it's hard because you have to remind yourself to do it. The whole idea is that if you keep going, that eventually it becomes just part of a habit. You know, Robin Sharma in his book, 5 a.m. Club, talks about 66 days. I mean, the studies are showing it's 66 days for a habit to become reality. But do you know, for many people, that first 2 weeks of that change is so hard. It's they get it right one day, the bumpy part, and they get it wrong the next day. Then it doesn't feel right. But when you create a small intention and you stick to it, what you're doing is sending a message to your brain is that, yeah, I can do this. We're recreating, rewiring a new narrative, and so that's what's happening now. We're being forced to create a new narrative. So giving yourself permission to do that, to work through that uncomfortable feeling, is where we're at right now. It's just, it feels really uncomfortable. And then, you know, and the news media will have you believing in fear. Well, you don't have to buy into that at all. That's not your narrative. Because you've been through tough times before. You know you create solutions to those tough times. And with the media constantly sending you these, don't go outside and don't watch, and it's just fear-based. But you know, if you trust your intuition, that you'll get through this. You will create solutions because you've done it before. And as I've said to many people, young people over this last period of time, if you're really worried about right now, go back to a time when you created a solution to whatever you thought was hard at the time. Because that's the place you'll create the solution again. It's exactly the place you'll create the solution again. You have it within you. And that time is now, because change happens through you, not to you. And who we become is what we learn in that. And I choose, and I know many of you on this call choose to create your own reality. I choose to create my own reality. I'm not going to listen to what others dictate my life to be. I haven't come through all I've been through in my life to go through this and have somebody else tell me what I can do. No. That's not going to work in my life any longer. Let me know if that is ringing true with you at the moment. And let me know what's going on, because as you know, I'm struggling a little bit on everything keep keeping up with your comments. We've got all sorts of things happening this morning. Oh, it's just lovely. Oh, hell yes, Sandy. Thank you. Good morning, Sandy. Yeah, oh, hell yeah. And do you know, the other thing is, it's about maintaining this sovereignty. That's what I'm going to talk about in a minute. We're going to do an EFT session at the end of this to help you hold that space. But what I want to talk about is maintaining your sovereignty. Dr. Christiane Northrup sent a beautiful blog through. It is to be, it's up to me. That's right, Pauline. That's why I've been upset during this time. Oh, right, Cecily. Interesting. Okay. That's okay, Sandy. Oh, sorry, I'm late. The kids' charge cord. Yes. Isn't that interesting? Isn't it lovely having all those children home? It's maintaining, what she talks about, maintaining your sovereignty. I love that. It's like, yes, because I'm the queen of my life now. I'm not the princess any longer. I'm the queen of my life, and I want to retain that sovereignty of who I am. You know, we haven't come this far down the evolutionary path to live in fear and think that somebody else is going to decide what I do and what I don't. No, 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 no. It's not going to happen. It's just not. But one of the things that happens when you go through this is re-evaluating the word compromise. In my experience, and especially working with so many people, that word compromise for women doesn't necessarily mean empowerment. In fact, I have experienced for many people that I know, and for women especially, we more easily compromise than others. And often we're the ones who there's a part of us that we have to give away. That compromise means that we lose. And that's no longer the case. And so instead of when you're going through this change and you're kind of re-navigating relationships and work relationships, instead of compromise, to think in terms of empowered collaboration. That how you are able to show up and allow others to show up as their true selves, that coming together is not about compromising either one of our sovereignty, but rather creating empowered collaboration in the work that we're doing or the relationship that we have. That I want to have a relationship with you, I want to work with you, but I am not going to feel disempowered in my truth, nor do I want you to feel disempowered in your truth. So how does that show up? How do we make that work? Because, as I said before, in my experience, when we talk about compromise, it is the woman in a relationship who does the most of it. We give up most. And I think there's a new change that we have to come around, is that we don't have to give of ourselves in order to have what we want any longer. That when we're creating relationships and family units and business partnerships, it all has to be based on empowered collaboration so that we don't lose this change that we're going through. And it's about stepping into that wholeness. You know, when it's really how it's connected to, it actually connects to three things. And where something's not working in your life shows up in these three areas. Number one, relationships. If you're not being 100% yourself, being able to speak your truth and have that empowered collaboration in relationships, it's going to show up. It's going to show up big time. It shows up in our body, either with weight or pain or discomfort. If you're not living that 100% truth, or it'll show up in your bank account, because money is just energy. So when you are the 100% sovereign you, that you emanates outwards. You know, the Heart Math Institute, talked about this before, heart resonance measures out about 1 metre from us, about 3 feet. So that space you create for attraction, that's the space. That's the space. And so if you have to be compromised, if you have to give up that sense of who you are, then it's going to show up in one of those 3 places: body, relationship, bank account. Or all 3. Or all 3. But that's where our greatest lesson is. If something isn't working, that's where it's going to show up for you. In one of those 3 places: body, relationship, bank account. Now, in the book Lighter, that's what we talk about all the time, is that in order to live that lighter life, one of those issues is beginning to trust yourself with intuitive eating rather than following somebody else's outdated model. If you can't trust yourself or trust your body to eat the food that enhances it, but you hand your power over to somebody else in that one thing, then how do you trust your intuition on anything else? Doesn't make sense. But when you're not trusting it, it will show up in one of those 3 places: body, relationship, bank account. So this whole period of change, to me, is all about this. How are you doing? Are you on? Let me know how you're going. Give me a heart or a like or a... You got a question? Remember, this is more of a workshop today than a live. So is there anything going on that it's shifting for you? I hope you're keeping notes. Oh, my Lord, yes, Sandy says. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Queen, sovereignty. Think in terms of sovereignty. I love the way she uses that terminology, you know, thinking of yourself in terms of your sovereignty. You know, that's a really sacred space, that sovereignty. So, getting back to that guide that I just sent you, that will have as a 10-step process to creating that vision for your life. And you may need to go back to that and review, okay, what do I really want? Making a decision first. In the June Jumpstart, that's what I asked people to do, was to make a decision about something they were going to do. Like, just as simple as that. Make a decision. Okay? What can I create for my life? And then the vision. The vision. Okay, what does it look like? What does that look like? Then the emotion. Okay, what does that vision feel like? That's what's so important. You know, my guide, my jump start intention was to drink 6 bottles of water a day, per day, because I want to feel good. I want to feel more energized. I want to feel more clarity. And I know just by committing to that one thing was going to do that. Sandy, if you look how I step back for the farm, it says so much. Oh yeah, every day it'll show up for you. It'll show up for you. And then that shows up in some way, body, relationship, bank account. That's how it manifests. So all you need to do is go, okay, what, Sandy, for you, for instance, to just go to where, okay, where am I not showing up as me? Where is the fear around showing up as me? Where is the fear about speaking my truth? And remember, we've got the personality profile, that 4-step process, the 4-step personality guide. So each of the personality types needs to show up in a different way. All 3, as Andy says. All 3. Okay, so the question you go back to is, where am I not showing up as me? Where am I hiding this? Where am I dimming my light? And where's the fear? So you need to work, we're going to tap on this in a minute, but we need to work on that. So your personality type, for instance, the achievers, you know, for an achiever, it's not achieving. It's beating themselves up all the time. Hands up here, my achievers. That my personality type is an achiever personality type. We're very harsh on ourselves, incredibly hard on ourselves. And so that shows up as self-criticism, self-judgment, need for perfectionism. For our socialisers, for my socialisers on the call, yours is that connection with others. But where is that connection with others where you're not you come away from the interaction with others feeling that you've had to give a piece of yourself away in order to maintain that relationship? Because relationships are very important for you to maintain your energy levels. And oftentimes with a socializer, what happens with a socializer is they tend to really enjoy being with people and love working with people and interacting and make friends easily, but often look past other people's agendas. And so when somebody comes back and, disappoints you, it's a real setback. My peacemakers, Sandy, there you go. For peacemakers, being able to speak your truth is really challenging. And so peacemakers often are emotional leaders, more so than any of the other personality types, because of that sense that I need time to speak my truth. I need to think things through that others won't necessarily give you that space and time to do it. And so a peacemaker kind of really, you're the guys that need to do a lot of inner work around feeling really comfortable about speaking the truth. And I think one of the bonuses we've got today is the bonus chapter from Lighter, where it explains about the personality profiles. And if you haven't done the quiz, there's a link in that as well to doing that quiz to find out what you want. And the last one are the competitors, and the competitors just have a tendency to run on adrenaline all the time. Their issues are often stress related. They just won't take the time to stop because they've got to be achieving all the time, or they've got to have this. They've got a high sense of goal setting, and they're really competitive. So when you're stepping out into this new person you want to be and this new life that you want to create for yourself after all the learnings that you've had in the last couple of months, understanding your personality type is really important because it'll give you the energy and the strength to know when you're sabotaging yourself and what that really means, because sabotage usually is just fear of success. In my experience, sabotage, procrastination is more about fear of success rather than fear of failure. And so looking at where that's happened in the past, where that fear of failure, fear of success is coming up for you, and looking at your personality type and how you overcome that. So that's in the bonuses we've got today as well. So how are we all doing? As I said, I've got real technical difficulties on my computer. Oh dear, I could buy a new computer this week, I think. How are you all doing? There seems to be a really big delay on this at the moment, and I'm having trouble getting things through. I'm not quite sure what's happening. But I'm trying to keep track of the comments in here as well. If I've missed you, I'm so sorry. This is just what's going on. But, all those people have got the guide. Fantastic, fantastic. Excellent, excellent. All right. I think it's time we move on to a EFT session. What do you think? Let me know. You want an EFT? If you're good, excellent, excellent. Cecily, yep, let's do an EFT session, a tapping session. Sandy, doing that inner research this week, but being the peacemaker, I have to wait for my turn. Yeah, that's exactly right. So, Sandy, for you this week, I do a lot of tapping around being courageous to speak my truth. Thanks, Trish. Yes, nothing worse. I've got one computer that's doing all this weird stuff with the screen. I've got this one that didn't go onto my scheduled Facebook Live. So it's just... But aren't I lucky, my age, to be able to pivot? I'm very proud of myself this morning. The achiever in me let go of my need for perfection. Woohoo! I have come a long way. All right, let's do a tapping session to help you get through this change, and one that you can use. Copy that, Sandy says. One that you can use whenever you're feeling like you're maybe slipping. Yeah, thanks, Trish. I get it. You are. Yeah. Whenever you feel like you're slipping back, or whether you feel that, I'm not. I've got this fear around. Am I comfortable? Am I safe enough to be me? or have to be? Thanks, Sandy. Am I comfortable enough to be me? Can I be me? All right, here we go. All right, I want you to just think about, Sandy, this might be good for you, or Trish, or anybody else who's still on the call. Cicely's here as well. I want you to think of a time this week when you felt a little bit fearful of, or you felt yourself kind of slipping back to an old way, a habit or a thing that you said you weren't going to do, and you felt yourself slipping back into that. Whether that was, not speaking your truth, kind of holding back, whether it was food, could have been food, I made sure I was going to eat well this week and I didn't, I slipped back to it, or whatever my intention was, I wanted for June and it didn't work. Let's think about that, okay, whatever it is. And I'll use the word change and I'll use the word doubt. But you, again, remember, use whatever is right for you. We want to go back to a time, allow that memory to flow, go back to a time when you felt uncomfortable, when you weren't allowed to speak up, where you were told that who do you think you are? Any of those times. We want to come up, we want to find that. We want to find that. So we're just going to start tapping. And I just want you to measure that level of uncomfortableness or disappointment or whatever it was that you felt. And we'll start. Even though I can feel this change, but it hasn't yet anchored in yet. And it still feels uncomfortable. I deeply and completely accept myself and how I feel. Even though I slip so easily back into old habits, and that really makes me crazy. I deeply and completely accept myself and how I feel. Even though I know what that new me looks like. I know it when I'm in it. But sometimes it's really challenging. I deeply and completely accept myself and how I feel. Okay, tapping. It still feels uncomfortable. I slip back into old habits so easily. I know who I want to be. I don't want to go back to that old way. But this new way feels a bit uncomfortable. It's hard to maintain my sovereignty. Just reminds me of all those times in the past where I didn't feel safe to be me. I can see the change. I know who I can be. But it just feels so uncomfortable at the moment. And I find myself slipping back to old habits. Because this change still feels uncomfortable. Sometimes a bit fearful. This change can feel hard. And there's still some doubt. Take a deep breath and let it go. Okay, I want you to kind of just think of all the times in the past where you tried to be yourself. Maybe you spoke out and you weren't supposed to, or somebody laughed at you because you said something and you thought was funny or, real, and they just thought you were an idiot. All those times. Because those are the things that when you want to change and you want to step out and be the real you and you want to speak your truth, That's the stuff that holds you back. That stuff. And as we're going through this change, because I don't think we're over yet, by a long shot, we're going through this change, maintaining that sovereignty will be challenging. People will challenge you as you move through it. But it's having that confidence to stand with your feet firmly planted on the ground and speak your truth, even if your voice shakes. So let's do a reframe round. And remember, I'm going to do the reframe round when you feel, oh, okay, I've got it. You've kind of released all the emotional connection to those past memories. But this is the reframe round to do after you've done a tapping. All right, here we go. Even though I'm in that change part, I choose to embrace this messy feeling. Even though this change can feel a bit uncomfortable, I choose to honour myself. Even though this feels a bit messy, I choose to honour who I am and speak my truth with confidence. Here we go. I choose to honour who I am. I choose to speak my truth with confidence. I choose to let go of the need for validation. I choose to honour who I am. I forgive myself for not honouring myself in the past. And I forgive all those who have not allowed me to be who I am. I choose to be and honour who I am. I choose to speak my truth. Just take a deep breath and let it go. How'd it go? Sandy, when I first came to the farm, I stepped back for motherhood and being a farmer's wife. It's hard to speak my truth now. That's what I'm struggling with. Farm always comes first. Interesting, Sandy, isn't it? Yeah. So, you change that narrative. I come first. Because when I'm first, I bring the wholeness of myself. And that creates the magic. Who we are creates the magic. And, you know, I'm doing a big presentation tomorrow for a large group of mums raising kids living with autism. And the message is always, you know, I learnt this the hard way, that you are the centre. You mothers, women, we're the centre of the love. That's what we do. That's what we do naturally. But unless we're able to have that love emanate from us, our whole self, then it's a fractured love. It's a fractured wholeness. It's not real. That caring for yourself and giving yourself permission to speak your truth is the greatest gift you give to the planet. The greatest gift you give to the people in your life is the wholeness of you. If you're showing up not being the biggest, brightest light you can be, then you're doing a disservice to the people that surround you. This isn't about sacrificing ourselves for others. Hand up. Took me a long time to learn that one. We sacrifice ourselves for others so easily. You know, I was thinking this morning about this change that we're going in. Yeah, that's right, Sandy. I know that we keep forgetting it's the change you're going through, so let's get through that. But I was thinking this morning about what this change has meant for the planet. you know, it had to change. We needed too much. We wanted too much. Wasn't enough to have, you know, a normal house. We wanted a great big house, with, you know, 4 bathrooms and big, you know, rooms, and each kid having a room, and da 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 da. And all that did was push people into debt in order to get it. So what does that do to the quality of life? We eat too much. You know, friends of ours own a restaurant. It's the amount of food that people leave on their plates because they've ordered 3 courses, and they can't possibly finish it. What's that doing to the environment? And there's people starving. There's people homeless. And it's all, I think, this change that's happening to us. You've got to begin to ask yourself, you know, what is it that I really need? To me, I think what came out of all this COVID stuff was connection with others. We learned we don't need a lot of things anymore. People figured out they can work from home. People figured out they didn't go out for dinner 5 times a week. People figured out that what was really important was seeing their grandparents or their parents. I mean, that's what this is all about. So, to me, it's about bringing that wholeness of yourself is what people need. They need the wholeness of you. Bring that wholeness to whatever you're doing, and it's the best gift that you can give to others. We don't need all the other stuff. We don't. We don't need. That doesn't make us who we are. The cars, the houses, the trips, the whatever. That doesn't make us who we are. It's who we are. Speaking our truth, honouring our sovereignty for who we are. And that's what's important. And look, if you're struggling with this, I'm going to put a link in here. You reach out and you can have a chat. You can contact me, and if you think, you know, I want to hold this change, I'm ready for this, I want to do this inner work, reach out, let's have a chat, see how I can help you. That's it for today. Yeah, Sandy, I learned the hard way. No, Linda, I learned the hard way that when I put myself first, I can help others so much more. I wish I'd learned this sooner. Yeah, I know, Linda. Isn't that, I think, the thing we need to really talk to our children about, our daughters in particular. Their world is so different from ours. What they think they need and what they want. I know my daughters are doing a reevaluation of what they want and what they need, and it's very different from what they thought. And it's lovely, actually. And I think we have to be that guiding light. That if you continually put others above you, giving, that's that old narrative, you show up as a fractured person. And that's not what we need. And if we're going to make this change, we have to do this. Oh, you're welcome, Linda. Thank you. Yeah, I want to try and get Caitlin to realise this. I know. We have to teach our girls to speak their truth. All our children, really, but in particular our girls, to speak their truth, even if their voice shakes. And, there's things that have changed for them too, and thank goodness for things like the Me Too movement and the Black Lives Matter movement. There's changes happening. It's wonderful. All right, everybody, that's it for the show for this week. Thank you for being on, and thank you for sticking with me despite all the technical hitches we went through this morning. A big thanks to my friend Pam in Toronto. Pam, thank you for fixing it when you did. I'll do this better next week. Hopefully have a new computer by then, and things will be different. I look forward to the Living Light of Facebook Live show tomorrow. And we'll, just before we go, what was that? Sorry, I missed that. What was that? It's been an interesting time. I have a Sagittarian social sun who is indulging. Oh, ooh, interesting. Good for the Sagittarians. Quiet time. No parties. I've got a Sagittarian sister too, and they're great people to have around at a party. But yeah, you have to indulge in quiet time. Interesting. All right, everybody, have a great weekend, And we shall see you next week, 7:30 in Saturday morning for the Living Lighter Facebook Live show. And let me know how you're going to go this week. Send me a message if you're struggling at all. I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.